This is a story about invisibility, about how a woman becomes furniture in her own home, about how a man slowly kills his partner with words, decisions, and contempt. But she started learning the language he used to humiliate her. And when the deciding moment came in a stranger's apartment, she heard the truth. A horrible, merciless truth about who she really is to him. And she chose herself. This is a story about courage, pain, and rebirth. Welcome to the She Defied Age channel. Before we continue, please let us know in the comments section which region you are connecting from. We genuinely value this information. We wish you a deeply engaging experience with this remarkable narrative that is about to unfold. Natalia sat on her bed with a worn linguistics guide retrieved from a concealed location below some folded sweaters. The pages bore traces of her careful annotations. Small colored tabs marked important sections throughout the text. The desk lamp was switched on at a deliberately low setting, so its glow would remain invisible if anyone peeked under the bedroom entrance. She opened her workbook filled with practice exercises. From the adjacent living room, loud audio from a sporting event dominated the atmosphere. David was absorbed in watching a match, and she understood with certainty that he would remain occupied for approximately 120 minutes. This secret educational routine had persisted for 9 months now. Whenever her partner completed his professional obligations, or became consumed by his hobbies, Natalia devoted these hours to her linguistic study. Initially, motivation was purely exploratory. A promotional offer for language instruction appeared in her internet feed one evening. The material captivated her completely. She discovered that the process of learning activated her mind in unprecedented ways, that she could feel her brain engaging as linguistic patterns crystallized into comprehensible meaning, and slowly the foreign sounds began to form into recognizable structures. It resembled fitting puzzle components together, except significantly more exhilarating. Yet David remained unaware, and she had no intention of changing this. 3 years prior, when she had mentioned attending workshops focused on textile art, he had responded with such intense laughter that her enthusiasm evaporated immediately. At that moment, he declared from his device without offering her his attention. "Natalia, that is not a legitimate professional endeavor, understood? Money would be wasted. She would participate for a short period, and ultimately discontinue, just as you consistently do." She had attempted to respond, to explain that she had not abandoned previous interests, that she simply wished to investigate something unfamiliar. His response came swiftly. "Every few weeks you discover a new interest. First cardiovascular exercise classes, subsequently visual arts, then additional trivial pursuits. Your attention should concentrate on managing household responsibilities more effectively." At that juncture, she had chosen silence, though resentment became embedded within her consciousness like a splinter working deeper with every passing day. Subsequently, 6 months later, when she made a decision regarding enrollment in morning fitness instruction, he prevented her from completing her explanation. His objection emerged once more, sharper than before. "Our financial resources do not permit frivolous expenditures. Are you cognizant of contemporary utility expenses?" It was from that instant that Natalia discontinued revealing her aspirations to him. What purpose would such communication serve if he would disregard them regardless? She had become undetectable in her residence. David determined their travel destinations, furniture acquisitions, social engagement schedules. She managed food preparation, maintained cleanliness, offered agreement, and occasionally attempted disagreement, though he would simply brush it aside with a wave. "I possess superior understanding. You lack comprehension regarding these subjects. Allow me to manage this." And Natalia recoiled progressively until invisibility became her standard existence. She transferred hot beverage from an insulated container into her bedroom beforehand, ensuring she would avoid venturing into common areas where she might draw notice. She positioned herself against the cushions and consumed the linguistic exercises. She articulated unfamiliar terms in hushed tones, assessing her intonation through an application installed on her portable device with earpieces inserted. The sensation of maintaining something personal, something that David neither recognized nor attempted to regulate, provided a remarkable sense of autonomy. This represented her isolated sanctuary in an existence where everything else had progressively been transferred beyond her authority. After 60 minutes elapsed, the broadcast commentary amplified from the front room. Someone must have achieved success in that moment. Natalia lifted her attention and focused on listening. David was offering loud remarks regarding the action, perhaps conversing with someone through the device. She distinguished his passionate articulation, his mirth. Their interactions had not generated that particular quality of happiness for quite some time. She generated a prolonged sigh and refocused on the workbook, attempting to suppress her contemplation of how substantially their bond had deteriorated. Echoes of former connection when they united in matrimonial commitment 14 years ago. Circumstances were fundamentally dissimilar. David displayed curiosity about her viewpoints. Their shared visions of the future involved evening wandering with linked hands, collaborative goal establishing, amusement from insignificant events. He referred to her as his treasure and communicated that she represented the paramount accomplishment of his existence. Natalia accepted every utterance as truthful. Happiness arose simply from his physical proximity, receiving the concepts he imagined regarding professional progression, residential ambitions, and prospective children they would nurture eventually. However, over time something underwent transformation. David developed increased rigidity and greater self-satisfaction. Once his earnings increased substantially, he appeared to conclude he possessed the authority to manage their existence unilaterally. Natalia maintained a professional role within an accounting division at a minor organization. Her compensation remained minimal, sufficient primarily for food acquisition and her individual necessities. David regularly emphasized that it was his income that maintained the household, provided the mortgage payments, automobile loans, and excursions away from home. "With me absent, your position would be what?" he would query during disagreements. "A modest rental in a shabby neighborhood with multiple roommates, that is where." She would remain silent because her inner conviction supported his perspective. That lacking him she would truly be unable to navigate. That her capabilities were inadequate, her determination insufficient, her essence unremarkable. They had not produced offspring. Initially, they deferred this option for professional reasons, residential obligations, space improvement initiatives. Later, conception simply did not happen. Medical professionals expressed uncertainty. Every assessment proved normal for both individuals. Yet pregnancy remained impossible. Specialists' evaluations, treatments, all continued beyond 1 year with no resolution. This conversation eventually became emotionally charged, and discussion discontinued entirely. Covertly, Natalia fantasized about a young person in her care, envisioning settling a small child for sleep, sharing narratives, facilitating developmental progress. However, apprehension prevented her from articulating this openly, fearing he would attribute responsibility to her, suggesting she failed at this one fundamental responsibility. In contemporary months, they had become emotionally distant. He stayed away from the residence increasingly, coming back fatigued and temperamental. Throughout dining, he responded with monosyllabic answers while absorbed in his communications apparatus. Natalia attempted initiating interactions, inquiring regarding his professional experience, relating minor events from her workday, attempting to create entertainment through humor. He would nod without actual attention, and moments later, would separate himself toward the entertainment system and programming content. Natalia endeavored to discover connection pathways. She prepared his preferred meals featuring his distinctive smothered protein preparation accompanied by mashed starch vegetables and cornbread variations. She expressed interest in collaborative outings, theatrical performances, botanical gardens, uncomplicated strolls. Every suggestion was rejected with the same exhausted refrain. "I am depleted, Natalia. Grant me tranquility, please." You cannot comprehend what it resembles working intensely throughout the week and subsequently experiencing demand for entertaining you additionally. So she maintained silence. She scrubbed plates, conducted household cleaning, observed the exterior through the window, and contemplated when misalignment had occurred. At what specific juncture did they transform into unfamiliar individuals sharing a residence? She recognized she might lose him or possibly had already misplaced him. Capitulation was not her intention. She wanted to acknowledge that 120 months had been expended without significance, that connection had concluded, that she remained utterly by herself. Therefore, when David proposed pursuing a different residence, the one-bedroom structure in the deteriorating edifice on the city periphery having turned constraining, Natalia experienced elation. The search and the silent discovery possibly this represented their moment. Possibly a cooperative effort, a unified intention, would facilitate convergence, could resurrect what previously existed. They initiated browsing through announcements, or more accurately David examined listings, while she positioned herself beside him on the furniture and acknowledged. He indicated selections through his portable technology, and she timidly communicated assessment, whether she appreciated the spatial arrangement, if natural light was satisfactory, if the cooking area was functional. But he hardly ever incorporated her suggestions. That vicinity lacks proximity to public transit, he would say with a dismissive gesture. That pricing exceeds our spending limitation. That area contains unfavorable characteristics. Problems exclusively there. Do you comprehend these matters? Progressively, Natalia abandoned challenging him. She positioned herself motionless, observing the electronic display, processing independent thoughts. Browsing intervals transformed into lengthier duration periods. They participated in unit inspections during weekend periods, initially demonstrating eagerness, subsequently with diminishing enthusiasm, and consistently, some component required modification. Spatial configuration was suboptimal. Residence generated excessive volume. The structure displayed aging characteristics. The community courtyard provided insufficient vehicle parking space, or costs exceeded acceptable parameters. David maintained consistent discontent, highlighting minor problems, debating with real estate agents. Natalia felt exhaustion from the relentless site visits, his ongoing annoyance, the meaninglessness pervading everything. Occasionally she hypothesized that he was deliberately fabricating problems to postpone acquisition. For what reason? Her comprehension failed. And subsequently one night, while she sat with her textbooks executing yet another grammatical lesson, David thrust open the bedroom barrier. He omitted knocking. The portal swung wide. Natalia recoiled and barely succeeded in pressing the exercise notebook beneath her resting surface. Her pulse accelerated. What if discovery occurred? Natalia, observe this, he demanded, extending his communications device displaying a residential listing, disregarding her bewilderment. This is the appropriate selection. 5 apartments, 13,300 square feet area. Desirable neighborhood, and pricing remains acceptable. A foreign national is marketing it. A Belgian gentleman. We will examine it on the following day. Natalia inhaled deeply. His lack of observation appeared evident. She accepted the device and reviewed the explanation. This residential space genuinely appeared exceptional. Sun-filled environments with substantial roof heights, commodious cooking preparation areas, twin bathing facilities, transparent enclosed outdoor space. Photographic elements displayed expert-level composition. The prior proprietor's commitment to the property's maintenance was apparent. Polished wooden coverings were displayed. Wall surfaces demonstrated fresh pigmentation. Furnishings appeared substantial, lacking deterioration indicators. Beautiful, she uttered cautiously, examining the pictures. Why is he distributing it? He is relocating to his nation of residence. Stated plainly there. David reclaimed the apparatus as though she had retained it excessively. Remained here multiple years for professional duties. Employment position finished. He is departing. I have already initiated interaction. Fixed appointment for tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Will you be accompanying me? Obviously I shall be accompanying you, Natalia answered. Very good. I believe this possibility resolves the matter because I exhaustion from repetitive weekend touring. He produced an extended yawn and stretched. Very well, I shall resume viewing the program. Your presence here seems unnecessary? I was simply perusing content before resting, she replied. Absolutely. His attention shifted to the barrier. Simply refrain from extending wakefulness excessively. We must begin preparations promptly in the morning. He departed, securing the portal behind him, and Natalia continued sitting positioned on the cushions, gazing into nothing. A foreign national, someone unfamiliar with the local language. Something sparked internally. The secret decision. She withdrew the workbook from underneath the cushion, exposed the closing section where she transcribed novel vocabulary and expressions. Her proficiency had advanced substantially. She possessed capability to interpret uncomplicated written materials, comprehended dialogue and entertainment without need for translation features, and occasionally composed abbreviated correspondence for instructional purposes. Her internet-based teaching professional had acknowledged her accomplishment, explaining she demonstrated strong capability and authentic linguistic awareness. And if? The contemplation appeared unexpectedly and felt simultaneously preposterous and irresistible. What if, throughout the contact with this vendor, she did not communicate that she understood the language, merely remained unspoken, misrepresented comprehension of the foreign language? David would undoubtedly communicate with this Belgian in his preferred speech. Her partner perpetually communicated that following professional journeys to continental locations, he had increased his conversational ability significantly. Journeys to Belgian destinations and similar regions for professional purposes, exchange of communications with business connections, completion of official documents, and subsequently she would perceive everything they discussed without editorial interference or interpretation, everything that David might choose not to communicate to her. What purpose would this accomplish? Natalia could not completely formulate a response to her own inquiry. Simply some interior recognition communicated it was essential. Some vague uneasiness, fundamental intuition, internal perception, whatever terminology one preferred. Possibly she desired verification of his genuineness toward her. Possibly she had become exhausted from occupying the margins of all significant determinations, and desired authentic comprehension for the initial instance, information not processed through his personal perspective. Or possibly she simply wished to demonstrate her secret comprehension at minimum one instance throughout her existence to sense that she did not represent the straightforward and incapable individual he considered her to be. She positioned herself beneath the blankets, but achieved extended periods without sleep. David generated rhythmic breathing sounds beside her, distributed across the majority of the bedding. Natalia remained positioned at the perimeter as customary, anxious about causing disturbance and rousing him. Insufficient rest transformed him particularly temperamental. She remained awake in darkness contemplating the approaching meeting. Peculiar anticipation intermingled with apprehension. What utterances would she experience tomorrow? Additionally, was she emotionally prepared for potential revelations? Supposing it communicated something unfortunate, something following which she could not restore her former existence? However, her former existence had progressively grown unendurable anyway, she reflected. What could surpass the persistent sensation of rejection, invisibility, insufficient importance occurring continuously? Morning arrived, and they departed promptly. The residential space existed on the alternate region of the municipality in an emerging upscale settlement. Throughout the journey, David remained concentrated, driving with minimal commentary, uttering dissatisfied remarks periodically about traffic congestion and incapability of other motorists. Natalia monitored the passing scenery, mentally constructing dialogue scenarios. Apprehension gripped her. What if she neglected to comprehend speech when she encountered it in immediate circumstance? What if she became bewildered and exposed herself? The confrontation at Lauranis' residence, what if this represented a misjudgment, and she was fabricating anxiety unnecessarily? Your contemplative expression seems intense, David unexpectedly noticed, casting a peripheral glance at a traffic light intersection. You appear emotionally troubled. Do you harbor reservations about the residential space? No, I find it appealing, Natalia reacted hastily. I am simply considering, what if aspects malfunction once more? Do not consume yourself with excessive stress. This represents an outstanding selection. I examined everything comprehensively, the property record and the background of the unit. Everything demonstrates integrity. He paused, subsequently inserted, and do not experience apprehension. If complexity emerges, I will manage language translation for you. You comprehend? With international individuals, exercise of extreme prudence remains essential. They could potentially attempt to exploit us. These continental populations employ deceptive methodologies. They envision us as gullible populations. Natalia created no comment, restricting her fingers on her garment. You will conduct translation, she contemplated with bitter sentiment. The question concerns precisely what you shall communicate and what you shall withhold. They positioned the automobile in the lot adjacent to the contemporary construction with glass exterior panels. The entry area was tidy with an individual at the information station, communication apparatus, and monitoring devices. Professional artwork adorned the structure wall at every level. Expensive fragrance filled the environment. David examined his surroundings with satisfied appreciation and acknowledged. Satisfactory area. Encouraging indicators. Valuation will appreciate. The whole district experiences expansion featuring exclusive residential development. Profitable prospects lie ahead. Natalia made no reply. They progressed in the ascending chamber to the 12th story. The chamber moved rapidly, without audio, containing mirrored surfaces. Natalia studied her manifestation. Pallid complexion, tightened mouth, restless digit movement grasping her possession. She presented a frightened appearance. You require emotional regulation, she directed to herself. Act composed, authentic. Simply maintain soundlessness and perceive. Simply behave as you do routinely. Simply stay as the calm, undetectable individual who never communicates. The ascending chamber barrier expanded. They advanced through a passage containing gentle floor material. David examined his communications device for the specified residential designation and ceased at the appropriate entrance. Natalia experienced her cardiovascular organ pounding with intensity. It was about to commence. She would need to execute a performance. Simulate, stay quiet. Could she succeed? Could she accidentally communicate in a way that revealed her knowledge, through expression, via her physical responses? David activated the signaling apparatus. Sounds of motion approached from the inner space, deliberate, unhurried. Natalia gathered air, attempting to establish calmness. Every detail will proceed satisfactorily, she communicated to herself. You shall simply pay attention. You shall acquire the accurate information. Nothing problematic exists regarding that. The mechanism yielded and the portal gradually opened. At the entry positioned an individual approaching 50 years magnitude, commanding in stature, physically conditioned, with becoming hair showing gray pigmentation and thoughtful light-colored pupils. His attire consisted of an uncolored shirt and neutral-hued trousers, displaying refined presentation and welcoming demeanor. His expression broadened and his upper extremity extended toward David. I present myself as Philippe Laurent, he introduced with a moderate linguistic accent and subsequently converted to his country's language, clearly recognizing that David possessed comprehension. Natalia experienced tension development, though she controlled her nonverbal cues. She distinguished every term, the acknowledgement, the acceptance into the residence, statements about minimal disorder despite the space being immaculate. David answered in corresponding language, presenting himself with ease and self-assurance, subsequently gave a negligent head gesture in her orientation. This is my spouse, Natalia. She does not communicate in your language, therefore I will execute interpretation. Philippe turned in her direction, exhibited a pleasant expression, and extended his appendage for greeting. Natalia reciprocated the contact, produced a concise smile in reaction, and diminished her visual focus, imitating uncertain bashfulness. Inside, her consciousness screamed. Commenced. Currently, she was not a member with presence, just an incomprehending female occupying space who comprehended nothing. I encourage you to enter, Philippe disclosed, expanding the portal further and repositioning himself away from entry. They progressed through a broad entry area. Natalia observed the surroundings. Polished wood flooring, full-sized closeting occupying the interior wall, reflecting surface in elaborate border, delicate luminescence originating from architectural fixtures. scent of sanitization and delicate coffee essence. Philippe advanced them toward the receiving area, and Natalia generated an involuntary utterance of amazement. An expansive space containing extensive viewing panels presenting panorama of vegetation, and the hydrological resource extending distantly. Contemporary furnishings maintained warmth. An outsized light-hued sectional seating arrangement. A level surface composed of crystalline substance and vegetation material. Interior storage systems positioned along one wall containing reading materials and collectibles. Magnificent. She could not contain herself from expressing in his language. The deception unmasked. Philippe performed interpretation to Laurent, incorporating commentary. That the mate finds the presentation satisfying, but they will evaluate if financial demands are justified. Laurent produced laughter, demonstrated agreement, and commenced demonstrating the residential space. They gradually traversed the environments, the sleeping chamber containing a commodious sleeping platform and connected preparation area. The alternative more compact sleeping chamber, which Laurent utilized for employment responsibilities, the preparation area containing contemporary mechanical equipment and composite stone countertops. Laurent explained about the residential space, the structure, the surrounding neighborhood. David delivered interpretation in portions, yet Natalia observed he was excluding information or changing meaning. When Laurent specified that the structure possessed exceptional management that managed any complications with promptness, David delivered to Natalia that the property administration is satisfactory but manageable though adequate. When the prior proprietor noted the residents were educated, refined, professionals in intellectual disciplines, medical practitioners, commercial proprietors, David articulated in her direction. Neighboring inhabitants demonstrate typical characteristics. Disagreements have remained non-existent. Natalia remained soundless, performing examination of finished details, furniture elements, exterior panorama, yet confusion increased internally. Why was David misrepresenting Laurent's descriptions? Why decrease the significance of the property's favorable attributes? She failed to comprehend. Perhaps he simply intended to minimize the compensation amount, demonstrate insufficient enthusiasm. They came back to the receiving environment. Laurent suggested refreshment beverages, and David consented. Natalia positioned herself at the margin of the seating arrangement, positioning her extremities carefully, attempting to demonstrate maximum discreetness. Laurent withdrew to the preparation area and she distinguished equipment operation sounds, vessel clattering. David circulated the space, examining bound materials on fixtures, photographic elements displayed on barriers. Very well. Do you find this location satisfying? He inquired in her language while maintaining peripheral positioning. Considerably, she acknowledged with accuracy. The residence demonstrates excellence. Indeed, somewhat satisfying. He positioned his digit on his chin. Though asking price seems exorbitant, we would need to debate terms. Natalia wished to communicate something in response but continued in quietude. Laurent returned transporting a container with multiple drinking vessels and a portion of delicate baked items. He positioned the items on the level surface and positioned himself within the facing furniture piece. Natalia obtained a vessel, expressing appreciation through silent acknowledgement. The beverage contained superior quality roasted essence, authentic substances, not synthetic preparation. Laurent communicated once more, this instance in increasingly grave expression. Natalia focused carefully on each word. He illuminated that he had remained in this residence for 36 months. He harbored sincere attachment to this location, yet his professional engagement with a regional organization had terminated, necessitating return toward his family homeland. His companion and developed offspring had remained there, experiencing yearning for him. He articulated with affection coupled with minor depression, mentioning sorrow related to detachment from the residence, though alternatives were not accessible. David attended, acknowledged, then conveyed briefly for Natalia. He specifies he is departing for professional causes. Employment position concluded. Natalia developed an internal response with tension. For what reason did not he convey information about the household? concerning the circumstance that Laurent carried emotional significance regarding parting. These specifics rendered the proprietor increasingly genuine, increasingly comprehensible, yet David apparently judged them inessential to transmit. Subsequently, the conversation transitioned toward commercial elements. Laurent announced a financial amount. It demonstrated elevation yet reasonable for such residential space in this type of setting. David displayed displeasure and gave a negative response. Excessive cost, he articulated to Natalia in her language, subsequently changed back and initiated cost reduction negotiation with Laurent. Natalia maintained attention to their communication. David articulated convincingly, providing explanations. The realty industry experiences instability. Valuations continued declining. Alternative economical options existed. Laurent presented moderate but steadfast objection. The residential space maintained immaculate conditions. The area contained prestige. All paperwork contained legitimacy. Immediate occupancy was feasible following financial completion. David did not yield, submitting a financial offer 20% reduction from initial quotation. Laurent declined, expressing such substantial reduction was not feasible to acknowledge. Natalia reclined, confining the vessel with her digits, experiencing dispensable, resembling she was not truly current, resembling this was not her residence, not her prospective tomorrow, not her present state, merely ornamentation, an unspoken supporting character in a theatrical production where all contributors possess predetermined assignments. The betrayal revealed the discussion regarding financial parameters persisted approximately 20 portions of hour units. Ultimately, they recognized a middle point monetary valuation moderately decreased from Laurent's opening rate, though not to point of disadvantage. The gentlemen shook appendages, demonstrating mutual satisfaction. David produced expanded facial expression. Contract completed. He transmitted to Natalia. Procured reduction effectively. Observe the method one must engage with them. They transition into acceptance immediately when they perceive you lack naivete. Natalia produced thin response smile. Laurent articulated something and she heightened her consciousness, focusing closely. He offered contemplation of particulars. When to finalize the commitment, which documentation was essential, optimal methodology for formalizing the contract. David inclined ahead with genuine attention. You comprehend, Laurent commenced, concentrating his attention on David, and Natalia froze entirely. Commercial arrangements similar to this function optimally when maintained uncomplicated. Diminished bureaucratic procedure, diminished fiscal implications within my residence nation. I am capable of facilitating with documentation. I possess a juridical professional's communication details. That person manages all tasks expeditiously and appropriately. David leaned forward, demonstrating curiosity. What specifically do you advise? Very well, for illustration. Laurent articulated peacefully as communicating regarding climate. You may register everything under solitary proprietor classification. Organizational simplicity benefits monetary interaction with lending institutions, with processing. You have capacity to determine appropriation inside your household circumstances following, if you prefer incorporating the companion. I handled my property acquisitions employing this methodology. Initially everything registered under my designation, subsequently I discreetly distributed percentages subsequently. Effective and beneficial. Natalia underwent sensation of glacial chilling spreading through her nervous system. Register it under solitary proprietor designation. Exclusively within David's designation without her participation. David maintained quietude, resembling he was assessing the recommendation. Subsequently he slowly agreed. Comprehensible methodology honestly. Why introduce unnecessary complexity? I shall contemplate it. Obviously the selection remains yours to determine. Laurent dispersed his palms. I simply communicate from professional experience. You contain duration for deliberation. I can communicate the juridical professional's information. That person will communicate comprehensively if you possess curiosity. Indeed, communicate it, please. Natalia positioned motionless, attempting concealment of feelings. A tempest raged inside. David failed to communicate regarding this conversation, did not execute interpretation, performed pretense that nothing significant was happening. Simply continued maintaining pleasant communication with Laurent regarding building improvements, furnishings, what remained versus what Laurent would transport. She examined her companion, at his assured appearance, at his comfortable reclined positioning against the seating arrangement, expressing information to Laurent with casual gesticulation. He maintained contentment, relaxed posture, whilst she positioned beside him, experiencing her foundation become insubstantial. Did he genuinely intend to register the residential space exclusively under his designation? Did he genuinely propose to conceal this communication from her? To articulate that procedure necessitated this simplified process, that they would append her designation subsequently and subsequently either would or would not, but purposefully would not integrate her so she would finish with nothing, wholly controlled by him. Rumination spun with increasingly dire possibilities. Perhaps she magnified the circumstance. Perhaps he genuinely intended to accomplish documentation procedures properly afterward, merely selected to decrease procedure immediately. Yet for what reason did not he discuss it? For what reason did not he examine it with her? For what reason conceal this communication? She injured her lip, struggling to refrain from expression. She contained to exist through to termination of this contact. And subsequently then she could not formulate understanding regarding what would happen subsequently. The contact persisted an extra 4 portions of 10 minutes. They deliberated regarding program for the freelance property analyst, written material confirmation, occupancy transfer periods. Laurent demonstrated professional demeanor and accommodating mindset. David presented commanding characteristics and commercial deliberation. Natalia existed silently, repeatedly consuming her chilled beverage, experiencing progressively frigid emptiness growing within her with every advancing portion of time. Subsequently, the gentleman transitioned to examining preliminary commitment conditions. Laurent extracted a portable computer, opened a document composition, and demonstrated David a regular pattern. They curved above the display, communicating something. David communicated inquiry.
Laurent transmittait clarification.
Natalia maintained observation from separation. Two gentlemen negotiating consequential determinations, and she represented merely component of the environment, a noiseless ornamental addition. Simultaneously, Laurent raised his attention and studied her with concentrated awareness. Natalia diminished her visual focus, yet perceived he persisted watching. Subsequently, he converted to David and articulated a statement that suspended her breathing. She does not possess understanding that you arrange the documentation exclusively under your designation. Does not she? He articulated with minimal loudness yet distinctness. Might I possess miscomprehension regarding this circumstance? Duration appeared to cease. Natalia positioned herself without respiration, without motion, emphasizing the emptiness ahead. Inside, everything fractured. David presented no signs of humiliation, did not even demonstrate surprise, merely produced a chuckle and displaced his head. Significance. He articulated in matching language, moving his appendage carelessly. She fails to comprehend regardless. Truthfully, it comprises nothing concerning her. I generate compensation, I remit, and I determine. She merely inhabits and profits from my offerings. Thus, every element functions optimally. Concern yourself minimally. Laurent gave acknowledgement, yet something resembling uncertainty or disapproval transferred through his expression. However, he continued silent and came back to the portable computer illumination. Natalia persisted positioned motionless, yet inside everything roiled. Shock, discomfort, fury, hopelessness, everything combined into a mass adhered somewhere in her throat, creating respiration difficulty. She fails to comprehend. Comprises nothing concerning her, merely inhabits and profits from provisions that represented his perspective regarding her, that constituted his connection to her. Not as collaborative partner, not as equivalent, not as sentient individual, similar to domesticated creature requiring provision and motion management, yet without authorization to communicate. The Reckoning and Resolution 180 Months of Matrimony. 180 months she produced his meals, managed cleaning, executed cleaning operations, demonstrated encouragement, permitted his disposition fluctuations, his emotional distance, his condescension. 180 months she harbored expectation he would alter, that ultimately everything would transform positively, that they would achieve closeness once again. And he did not even consider it significant to convey to her that the residential space, their collective residence, would be designated exclusively under his designation. She constrained her molars so intensely her jaw experienced discomfort, yet she did not generate evidence. She persisted in seating calmly, respectfully, unobserved, as he had adapted to, as he anticipated from her. The contact was finishing. David and Laurent interchanged communication pathways, settled upon telephonic coordination in a couple of time periods to organize another gathering with the juridical expert. Laurent demonstrated courtesy and civility, conducted them to the departure, produced duplicate appendage greeting with David once more, and gestured to Natalia with a pleasant expression. They descended in the motor chamber in quietude. David produced melodic humming, demonstrably gratified. They advanced toward the structure entrance. Direct luminescence radiated intensely. The atmosphere contained gentleness and vernal freshness. Pedestrians progressed along connected pathways. Juveniles engaged in entertainment in the vicinity. Ordinary moment, ordinary existence. Natalia progressed beside her companion, experiencing location transition into simultaneous dimension. Everything encompassing seemed standard, yet a violent tempest was producing internally. They positioned the automobile. David activated the mechanism, activated rhythmic melodic entertainment. Very well, Natalia, satisfying residence, he articulated, navigating from the parking location. I informed you we would discover satisfying selection. This Belgian functioned dependably, dissimilar to those individuals requesting minimal compensation we examined previously. Failed to reduce compensation without difficulty. I performed competently, did not I? Natalia monitored the outer environment. Inside she sustained boiling, yet her articulation when she articulated sounded serene, virtually unconcerned. Indeed, satisfying residence. You comprehend. David percussed his digits in motion with the entertainment. In 1 week duration we will subscribe to preliminary paperwork, contribute monetary deposit, and it gets concluded. In approximately 45 to 60 time periods we transition. You possess capacity to commence planning structural modification, if you desire alternation of appearance. Despite that, every component exhibits excellence currently I contemplate. Affirm. Communicated everything Natalia could discharge. David noticed nothing. Persisted in verbal communication regarding the residence, regarding how fortunate everything progressed, how delighted he expressed that this situation would ultimately finish. Natalia experienced fractional listening. She persisted recreating mentally those articulations she experienced within Laurent's residence. Documentation scheduled solely under your designation. She fails to comprehend, comprises nothing concerning her. Every vocabulary element penetrated resembling implements for cutting. She inhabited illusion for countless rotations that they represented a household, that they performed as unified force, that he maintained affection for her, and he merely persisted transporting her resembling accessible hired support who resisted not, did not necessitate, did not interrupt. Queasiness ascended her throat. She closed her pupils attempting consolidation. Cannot express emotional display currently. Cannot communicate vulnerability. Requires analytical thinking. Requires determining subsequent procedures. They transported to their residence. David immediately positioned himself onto the seating arrangement and engaged the entertainment apparatus. Natalia ventured to the cooking area, provided herself with H2O, and drank entirely in rapid motion. Her digits experienced trembling. She positioned the vessel into the cleansing receptacle and positioned her rear against the horizontal eating surface, monitoring exterior the transparent barrier at the gray courtyard environments. What currently? What may she perform? If she merely articulates inquiries to him regarding for what reason he proposes registering the residence under exclusive designation, He will definitely generate attractive justification. He LL articulate functions optimally regarding monetary procedures, that he LL execute documentation alteration eventually, that she lacks comprehension about such circumstances, and to refrain from experiencing concerns. And she might probably embrace it given her desire to believe, given that it generates apprehension to acknowledge the individual she populated existence with regarding partial duration does not actually constitute the individual he performs as being. Natalia straightened herself. Insufficient. Sufficient being accommodating, quiet, receptive. Sufficient dismissing observations of authenticity, and anticipating everything gets resolved spontaneously. She progressed back into the receiving environment. David was entertaining himself utilizing some conversational program, generating vocal response to the presenter's entertainment production. Natalia positioned herself within the portal edge, maintaining attention on him. This individual intended to mislead her, to eliminate her from residential commodity acquisition, to depart her with nothing, and he assumed she would never find out about it. Never comprehend, never determine. Marcus, she called out. Utterance. He maintained attention on the electronic display. I require communication with you subsequently, Natalia. Refrain from attempting speaking now. See not you observe I'm maintaining entertainment? Earlier, she would have recoiled, displaced herself, maintained silence, displaced the communication. Yet not currently. Not this instance. No, currently, he transferred his perception, regarding her with surprise. Something such demanding quality in her articulation that he presumably had not experienced previously. For what reason are you experiencing emotional disturbance? Nothing transpired? Something transpired. Natalia produced a forward motion into the environment. Disclose to me, what label are you positioning the residential documentation underneath? He generated a blink, clearly not anticipating such inquiry. Both of our designations, naturally. For what reason? He deceptively articulated to her facing. I examined your communication. Laurent proposed you register every element underneath solitary proprietor designation, underneath your designation, and you consented. Marcus's facial characteristics contorted. His pupils became constricted. For what reason are you? Were you performing monitoring? I experienced your communication. Natalia maintained him in immediate ocular attention. Her cardiovascular organ hammered with such intensity it appeared prepared to rupture external from her torso. It terrified attempting to oppose him, to maintain steadiness, to demand factuality. Yet she currently had traversed the threshold. There existed no alternative pathway. The turning point. Laurent proposed you position everything under solitary proprietor classification, within your designation, and you approved. Marcus's appearance underwent transformation. His pupils narrowed with uncertainty. How do you? Were you monitoring our dialogue? I performed auditory reception of your communication. For what reason does this significance? Natalia moved backward instinctively. What constitutes significance comprises something altogether. You harbored intention to mislead me. What deception? He produced higher vocal intensity, and she recoiled but persisted in stability. I wished to facilitate the procedure. Subsequently, I would have incorporated you in the designation. Ultimately, everything would have contained satisfactory resolution. Subsequently, she repeated with minimal acoustical delivery. Or possibly you would not have incorporated me. Perhaps you would have permitted everything to stay under your designation. Satisfying, correct? I completely depend upon you. Unable to relocate. What are you articulating regarding? Marcus positioned his appendages upward. I persisted for 180 months laboring regarding your well-being, delivered for you, and currently you communicate condemnation regarding schemata. Labored regarding you? Natalia's articulation experienced tremors, yet she persisted in maintaining opposition. And what did I perform each duration? I functioned, directed the residents, permitted your emotional coldness. What emotional coldness? He interrupted her, progressing. I constantly demonstrated appropriate connection with you, delivered, exhibited concern, demonstrated attention. Natalia experienced something inside terminate ultimately. You did not even deliberate requesting my perspective regarding the residential commodity. Merely determined everything personally as you perpetually demonstrate. And I should have transmitted nothing and appreciated circumstances. Absolutely, given I comprehend commercial property circumstances with greater depth, he articulated aggressively. You comprehend nothing concerning genuine property acquisition. And you comprehend nothing regarding how to demonstrate partnership connection, she transmitted, shocking herself through her authentic bravery. Marcus froze. His appearance transformed to vivid, distended vascular passages manifested at his structural temple regions. Natalia visualized he maintained stringent limitation upon completely discharging. Satisfactory communicate. He articulated deliberately, single term by single term, similar to detailing something to an intellectually challenged youngster. You performed auditory reception of a communication, comprehended everything incorrectly, and currently you re-performing dramatic outburst. I'm articulating to you ultimately. You misinterpreted a communication. It constitutes customary administrative procedure. Subsequently, we would have incorporated you peacefully. However, given you do not maintain confidence in me, I do not maintain confidence in you. Natalia interrupted him. Since I experienced your articulation regarding Laurent, she fails to comprehend regardless. Comprises nothing concerning her. She merely inhabits and profits from offerings. Quietness manifested so densely one could distinguish neighboring audio. Marcus positioned with agape mouth. And ultimately during all their duration, Natalia perceived him experiencing disorientation, bewilderment, and concurrently somehow frightened, resembling his foundation was vanishing, resembling it had for her. I did not articulate that, he articulated ultimately, and this moment throughout all their existing period, Natalia discovered him failing to maintain linguistic reaction capacity. Communicate what you articulated subsequently. Natalia advanced toward him and currently he recoiled. Elucidate what you represented when you articulated regarding me with diminishment. When you discussed me with an external individual resembling some material that comprehends nothing and should not obtain understanding. Natalia, I experienced passionate display. He attempted generating more sympathetic acoustic projection. Actually, I transmitted something about which I experience regret. You comprehend, I did not harbor intention to generate emotional damage. Did not harbor intention. She perceived tear advancement yet retained them. She would permit them subsequently when she remained in solitary condition. Currently she contained to persist in authority. Marcus UV created emotional pain regarding extensive durations. Every moment via every expression, every visual transmission, every determination you formulated concerning me. I continued. Harbored anticipation circumstances would convert. Contemplated it constituted momentary that you experienced professional exhaustion, that you carried emotional weight, yet currently I comprehend you merely failed to maintain regard for me, persistently failed to maintain regard for me. That's not reality. He transmitted more forceful acoustic expression once more. I maintain regard for you. Subsequently, for what reason did not you harbor consideration that it was significant to communicate to me the residential commodity would stay under your designation? For what reason retain it from me? For what reason deliberate regarding it with external individual, yet not with me? Marcus progressed throughout the environment resembling constrained creature. Subsequently he halted rapidly, concentrated his attention on her. And for what reason did you determine to get the language regardless? He articulated, and something sharp appeared in his acoustic projection. For what reason maintained it from me? Possibly you maintain your covert circumstances, correct? Natalia started in shock. She did not anticipate him to convert everything. I did not maintain it covert, she articulated with minimal acoustic level. I merely articulated nothing due to the fact that I comprehended you would generate amusement. Resembling you generated amusement regarding floral arrangement instruction, regarding fitness instruction, regarding everything that harbored fascination for me. Do not magnify, he displaced his appendage. I merely articulated actuality. You perpetually start something and terminate. I terminated due to the fact that you eliminated any inspiration in me, communicated Natalia with greater acoustic intensity. Every moment I attempted to initiate something, you transmitted it represented insignificance, unimportant, pointless. You convinced me that I failed to contain competence regarding anything. And I embraced it. Embraced that I was genuinely that inadequate, indecisive, unremarkable. Marcus continued silent, directing his attention toward the environmental surface. Natalia maintained expectation he would communicate something, dispute it, confirm she experienced mistake, yet he maintained silence. Marcus, articulate something minimally? She articulated with exhaustion. Breaking free, he positioned his attention upward, and she identified something contemporary in his pupils. Remaining impartial, yet something bewilderment intermingled with something unfavorable. For what do you harbor intention I communicate? He articulated without interest. That I'm a poor matrimonial companion. That I generated hurt? Adequately, possibly I did, yet I persisted in effort. I generated effort resembling livestock establishing everything. Subsequently you communicate I failed to demonstrate regard. Respect comprises when your perspective receives solicitation. When your aspirations receive thought. When you are not discussed with deprecating intonation when you re-absent. Marcus produced downward rotation and displaced himself toward the transparent barrier, maintaining attention toward the thoroughfare. For what duration are we going to continue discussing this? He discharged once more. I communicated clarification previously. It transmitted from my cognitive capacity. Laurent articulated himself. I transmitted reaction without contemplation. Without contemplation, Natalia generated bitter amusement. When a human articulates without contemplation, they communicate genuine beliefs. What they genuinely consider. And you transmitted what you genuinely consider regarding me. Marcus constrained his extremities, and for momentary Natalia generated apprehension. What if he produces harmful action toward her? Yet he merely rotated and transported himself toward the transparent barrier, directing his stare toward the region exterior. You re-magnifying this, he communicated without rotating toward her. Constructing significance from nothing. I represent an adequate matrimonial companion. I maintain the household. Do not consume controlled substances. Do not pursue exterior romantic pursuits. Numerous inhabiting your circumstance would experience satisfaction. Numerous inhabiting my circumstance would have terminated matrimony extended duration previously. Natalia transmitted with minimal acoustic intensity. He performed rapid rotation. Something threatening transmitted in his pupils. Are you indicating termination regarding matrimonial connection? Marcus transported himself toward her. His appearance underwent twisting. Authentically, because you performed auditory reception of solitary communication you performed surveillance of? Not regarding solitary communication. Natalia generated additional transportation toward him. Regarding 180 months throughout which I remained undetectable in my individual residence. Regarding the circumstance that you maintained intention to eliminate me from residential commodity acquisition rights. Regarding the circumstance that currently you fail to comprehend what you generated wrongly. I did not eliminate you from anything. He transmitted greater acoustic intensity. I desired to generate the procedure simplification. Subsequently you would have continued incorporated in the designation. Everything would have functioned appropriately. Subsequently she transmitted with minimal acoustic projection. Or possibly you would not have incorporated me. Possibly you would have permitted everything to persist underneath your designation. Satisfying, correct? I persisted for 180 months, persisting with effort regarding you for 180 months, delivered for you, and currently you articulate condemnation regarding misrepresentation? Slaved regarding you? Natalia's vocal utterance experienced trembling, yet she persisted in opposition. And what performed I every moment positioned on that furniture? I performed employment, directed the residence, permitted your emotional distance. What distance? He interrupted her, progressing nearer. I perpetually demonstrated appropriate interaction with you, delivered, demonstrated consideration, demonstrated attention. Natalia perceived something within her terminate ultimately. You did not even deliberate requesting my perspective regarding the residential commodity. Merely determined everything personally as you perpetually demonstrated. And I obtained instruction to maintain silence and appreciate. Absolutely. Provided I comprehend commercial circumstances with superior depth, he transmitted aggressively. You comprehend nothing regarding authentic commerce. And you comprehend nothing regarding how to demonstrate matrimonial relationship. She transmitted, amazing herself through her genuine bravery. Marcus froze. His appearance underwent transformation to vivid. Expanded vascular passages appeared at his facial areas. Natalia perceived he harbored stringent limitation about completely discharging his passionate reaction. Realization and new beginnings satisfactory attend. He articulated deliberately, term by term, resembling communicating something to a youngster of minimal intellectual capability. You performed auditory reception of in communication, comprehended everything incorrectly, and currently you regenerating emotional release. I'm communicating to you ultimately. You experienced understanding confusion. It constitutes standard procedure. Subsequently, we would have incorporated you peacefully. However, provided you do not harbor confidence in me, I do not harbor confidence in you. Natalia interrupted him. Since I experienced your articulation regarding Laurent, she fails to comprehend regardless. Comprises nothing concerning her. She merely inhabits and profits from offerings. Quietness generated such density, one could distinguish neighboring audio transmission. Days of silent separation Marcus positioned with expanded mouth cavity. And ultimately during all their duration, Natalia located him experiencing confusion, uncertainty, and concurrently apprehension. Resembling his foundation was disappearing, resembling it encountered for her. I did not articulate that, he articulated ultimately, and this happened throughout all their matrimonial period. Natalia located him lacking linguistic response capability. What did you articulate subsequently? Natalia transported toward him and currently he recoiled. Clarify what you represented when you articulated regarding me with contempt. When you discuss me with an external individual resembling some substance that comprehends nothing and should not comprehend. Natalia, I harbored passionate reaction. He attempted generating more sympathetic acoustic projection. Authentically, I transmitted something regarding which I harbor regret. You comprehend, I did not harbor intention to generate emotional damage. Did not harbor intention. She perceived tear advancement yet maintained them contained. She would permit them subsequently when she remained in isolation. Currently she continued maintaining possession of her emotional state. Marcus, UV created emotional damage regarding extended durations. Every moment via every term, every visual communication, every determination you formulated regarding me. I persisted. Harbored expectation circumstances would transform. Contemplated it constituted momentary that you harbored professional exhaustion, that you harbored emotional burden, yet currently I comprehend you merely fail to maintain regard for me, perpetually fail to maintain regard for me. The following time duration passed in atmospheric haze. Marcus transported back 3 daily cycles subsequently, gloomy and quiet. They almost did not communicate. He came back late, transported early, positioned on the furniture for resting. Natalia prevented communications as well. She contained time for consideration, to deliberate about everything, to formulate a determination. She commenced investigating data regarding financial acquisition products, matrimonial dissolution, resource allocation. Examined community discussion systems, requested guidance through distance interaction with judicial professionals, performed mathematical operations regarding her monetary circumstances. The scenario emerging contained restricted optimism, yet not remaining impossible. Throughout matrimonial dissolution, she might demand half from their contemporary residential commodity. Transferring her allocation to Marcus or through public distribution, she would get sufficient for initial financial offering, and supplied her reliable earnings capacity and professional background. The lending organization would probably sanction financial borrowing regarding the residual amount. A cycle after, she transported communication to Laurent again. I desire to effort acquiring the residential commodity, she transmitted without introduction. Yet I will necessitate your encouragement and forbearance. I contain abundance of both, he communicated with cordial pitch in his articulation. Let us meet discuss every component. They assembled at an eating facility not distant from Laurent's architectural location. He came with contained documents and a judicial expert as communication identifier. Throughout beverage consumption, they discussed every detail. Monetary amount, duration requirements, administrative operations. Laurent genuinely decreased the monetary amount by 10 percentage points, communicating that he harbored intention to grant support, and that it contained greater significance for him to distribute the residential commodity to a respectable individual compared to acquiring extreme profit. Yet initially, you must manage your individual circumstance, he articulated with cautious intonation. With the companion, I do not harbor intention to penetrate your matrimonial connection, yet you comprehend that provided you remain matrimonially connected, any significant acquisitions will necessitate his authorization. I comprehend. Natalia compressed the vessel in her extremities. I'm engaging in matrimonial dissolution the following week. Articulating it externally carried fright, yet concurrently appeared liberating. Resembling, she ultimately articulated what had been developing internally for extended duration. That identical moment, she scheduled a meeting with the judicial expert recommended by Laurent. A feminine individual of regarding 40 rotations magnitude with intelligent pupils and serene acoustic projection, attended to her communication, and plainly arranged an operative strategy. Register for matrimonial dissolution, she transmitted. Concurrently request resource distribution. You maintain a collective residential commodity, which means you maintain authorization to 50%. The companion might attempt to debate, communicate he distributed more substantially, yet considering the non-existence of preliminary arrangement, the court system will probably distribute it equally. And for what duration will the operation continue? 3 or 4 month cycle durations, provided without difficulty. Extended period if he opposes. Natalia generated transcription of every element in her record. And solitary additional query. The judicial expert generated focused attention on her. Are you confirmed? Confirmed you harbor intention to conduct matrimonial dissolution? Given that the operation would not be straightforward psychologically, economically, mentally. Are you equipped? Natalia positioned her pupils upward. Met the judicial expert's visual focus. Confirmed. She articulated with solidity. Greater than she transmitted the communication with Marcus until evening, came back, prepared sustenance as customary, via routine. He appeared around 7:30 period, positioned at the consumption furniture with quietness. The dissolution and new path they ingested in quietude, and Natalia perceived everything internally compacting from apprehension. Ultimately, she positioned her utensil down. Marcus, we require communication. He positioned his pupils upward, and in them she located depletion and some variety of acknowledgement, resembling he previously comprehended what she would transmit. I'm engaging in matrimonial dissolution, she articulated, and her articulation did not experience trembling. Tomorrow, I'm transporting to a judicial expert with the documentation. I harbor intention, you understand. He slowly positioned his consumption utensil downward, positioned his physical form backward on the furniture. So, you determined ultimately? He did not ask. He conveyed it as fact. Indeed. And nothing will generate modification regarding your determination. Negative. He generated head rotation, rubbed his facial area with his palm components. Satisfactory. Possibly you maintain accuracy. Possibly we genuinely do not continue on equivalent pathways. I contemplated it all cycle duration. We've been outsiders for extensive durations, Natalia. I merely did not desire to acknowledge it. I did not desire to. Additionally, she transmitted with reduced acoustic projection. Yet currently we cannot perform pretense, everything maintains customary status. Are we going to distribute the residential commodity? Indeed, I harbor intention to get my allocation. Satisfactory, he generated head rotation. Merely permit me not to distribute it. Adequate. I'll acquire your allocation instead. We'll implement independent assessment. I'll generate financial provision at commercial valuation. Natalia generated head rotation in acknowledgement. It represented reasonable suggestion. And she maintained gratitude. He did not commence a commotion. Consented to every demand. They positioned a bit additional time frame in quietude. Subsequently Marcus positioned his physical form upward, transported to the remainder chamber to put items in a container. Natalia maintained position in the consumption area, attending to him transporting throughout the environments, positioning things into receptacles. Half an hour cycle duration subsequently. He transported outward carrying 2 extensive receptacles. I'll remain with Jamal regarding this moment, he transmitted, positioning within the portal. Subsequently I'll lease something. Contact provided you necessitate something regarding the administrative information. Adequate. He positioned for extra duration, resembling he desired to insert something, yet did not discover linguistic capacity. Subsequently, he generated head rotation and transported away. The portal secured without aggression. Natalia remained positioned in isolation in quietude that presently did not contain oppressive sensation, yet appeared tranquil. The matrimonial dissolution operation manifested to be extended and tiring. Documentation, judicial system areas, assessments, discussion. Marcus, to his merit, did not impose barriers and consented to every circumstance. Following 4 months cycle duration, they formally disintegrated matrimony and distributed resources. Natalia obtained monetary payment regarding her allocation of the residential commodity, an amount that appeared enormous to her and concurrently represented merely 50% of what they had accumulated via annual couples effort. Throughout these months, she handled considerable activity. Got replacement employment, discovered a vacancy in a global organization where linguistic proficiency was needed. The earnings represented 150% magnitude amplified compared to prior compensation. Throughout the meeting, when questioned to demonstrate linguistic capability, she articulated with assurance and linguistic fluency, and experienced the employment representative's amazement. "For what reason did you acquire the linguistic expertise?" inquired the personnel administrator. "Completely by my independent effort," responded Natalia via grin. "Via evening hours, 8 monthly rotations. Outstanding." The woman generated head rotation in recognition. "Our organization appreciates such inspired personnel." The employment functioned as fascinating and lively. Natalia maintained monetary accounting for the organization's continental operational sections, maintained communication with distance colleagues, attended to digital congresses. Regarding the initial instance in extensive durations, she experienced she was accomplishing something significant, that she obtained valuation and admiration. Concurrently, she performed mortgage acquisition operations. The organization granted the monetary acquiring choice quite rapidly. Consistent employment, articulated income, positive credit assessment. Laurent persisted with persistence, occasionally contacting to request. "For what reason concerning matters? Necessitate guidance?" "You demonstrate extreme compassion," Natalia communicated to him once. "Not all individuals would consent to persist for extended duration. I articulated to you I maintain no urgency regarding distribution," he transmitted. "Additionally, I perceive how extensive effort you provide. It remains deserving of admiration." Ultimately, every component readied. Documentation undersigned, financial resources transmitted, access implements allocated. Natalia positioned in the unoccupied residential commodity, her individual housing, and could not embrace the circumstance constituted factual. Enormous viewing surfaces, sun-filled areas, district overlooking. All this currently belonged to her, exclusively to her. Laurent transmitted component of the furnishings as transmitted commitment. The furniture piece, dining furniture, resting surface. The remaining element Natalia obtained progressively, determining herself via her individual preference, suspending pictorial representations, organizing literary materials, preparing the transparent enclosed space. Every minimal element transmitted pleasure, given it constituted her determining force, her determining authority. A new chapter she engaged in enrollment for specialized instruction progression, concentrated education regarding worldwide monetary accounting. Educational gathering occurred via evening and remainder day time periods. There she encountered fascinating individuals resembling her who attempted growth, obtain contemporary understanding, modify their existence. Throughout the tertiary educational session, a masculine individual of regarding 45 years magnitude positioned beside her, commanding in stature containing cordial expression and concentrated pupils. "Permitted eye," he articulated, generating head motion toward the unoccupied positioning nearby. "Certainly, Julian," he articulated personal identification, extending his extremity. "Natalia." They commenced articulating following the instructional presentation. It manifested he furthermore functioned in a worldwide organization, furthermore underwent contemporary matrimonial termination, furthermore attempted existence restart. They communicated communication apparatus digits, settled upon cooperative instruction preparation. Gatherings became customary. Initially exclusively regarding study, examining complicated subjects, exchanging documentation, discussing circumstances. Subsequently they commenced positioning at consuming facilities following instructional sessions, merely communicating, exchanging information. Julian contained concentrated hearing capabilities. Did not interfere, did not generate unasked direction, merely attended to and comprehended. "You constitute anything exceptional," he articulated once when Natalia transmitted her communication. Not all individuals would determine such activity. Beginning every component anew at your rotational stage. "At my rotational stage?" She generated vocal amusement. "I constitute 42 rotations. That comprises the rotational phase when everything contains remaining perspective. You comprehend that? Yet numerous do not. They exist retained in joyless connections given they harbor apprehension regarding modification. I harbored apprehension similarly," communicated Natalia. Yet it manifested that continuing in apprehension contains even enhanced suffering. Throughout extended duration, their connection progressed increasingly tender, more intimate. Julian did not generate pressure regarding velocity, did not command, merely continued existing. They transported throughout vegetation regions, transported to theatrical presentations, ingested at compact, comfortable consumption locations. Natalia discovered to have confidence again, to communicate openly, to permit herself to experience pleasure. One evening, while they positioned on her transparent outdoor platform consuming liquid refreshment drinks, regarding the setting illumination, Julian maintained her extremity. "I harbor profound satisfaction I encountered you," he transmitted with reduced acoustic expression. "I harbor it additionally," articulated Natalia, and perceived tear commencement, pleased ones this instance. One annual rotation had transpired considering the moment she experienced that crucial articulation in Loranes residential commodity, one annual rotation that underwent complete modification of her existence pathway. She positioned by the transparent barrier of her residential commodity, monitoring the municipality immersed via evening illumination, and contemplated the substantial distance she had traversed. Reflection and awakening regarding a quiet, undetectable companion harboring apprehension to articulate an additional expression to regarding independent female preserving authority, regarding her existence. Regarding a person who concealed her pursuits and aspirations to regarding a person who bravely progresses toward her intentions. Regarding one who harbored confidence in external perspective to one who determines her determinations personally. The pathway contained difficulty. Occurred instant when she harbored impulse to discontinue every component, return to the recognizable, albeit joyless yet protected. Happened evening periods when she communicated via isolation and uncertainty. Occurred moments when it appeared nothing would operate satisfactorily, that she carried inadequate capability, inadequate experience, inadequate essence to handle it. Yet she managed it given she located capability in herself she did not anticipate. Given she harbored confidence in herself when no person remained trusting. Given she determined to advance toward the unfamiliar regardless of the apprehension. And presently, positioned in her residential commodity in her personal dwelling, she comprehended what appeared resembling the finale represented actually a commencement. The commencement of a genuine authentic existence. A existence where she determines her individual pathway. The communication apparatus positioned on the furniture generated sound. Natalia generated optical focus. Experienced Julian's designation on the illuminated surface. Greeting, she articulated, producing an expression. Indeed, I maintain awareness regarding your residence. Obviously, come toward me. I'll await your arrival. She generated completion of communication and monitored exterior the transparent barrier once more. Preceding stretched a comprehensive existence, her existence, and she remained equipped to encounter it the mechanism she harbored intention personally. I'm genuinely satisfied you positioned yourself here, and that I maintained capacity to distribute my communication with you personally. Provided you felt satisfaction, manifest it via producing favorable reaction to the visual presentation and generating channel affiliation. Generate communication in the discussion location regarding what community you monitor from, and what moment span it constitutes. I harbor genuine interest recognizing where all you magnificent individuals remain monitoring from. Provided you harbor desire to demonstrate encouragement to me marginally more substantially, you might additionally communicate a monetary expression regarding help. I distribute contemporary existence communications regarding you routinely all singular moments,